Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and in this video we're going to be doing my favorite sort of booktube staple video, which is my favorite releases that are coming out in the following month. Now, normally I have to pare this list down to make it, time acceptable, just because I usually have like 12 or 14 books, and I have to kind of just like pare it down just to, make it reasonable. However, this one I had to do, I only had four and kind of a fifth one. Like, there's a reason. There's a reason why it's like kind of a fifth one. So yeah, if you have any recommendations on nature or history books that are coming out this month, let me know down below, because this is the first time this has happened to me. But first up, we got Sing Like Fish, How Sound Rules Life Underwater by Emarina Kingdon. And this just looked like a really cool one. I was sent this by Crown Publishing, so thank you much for that. I think this comes out in like the next week or so. But if you know the history of like kind of marine biology and stuff, like 100 years ago in the 1800s and stuff, before that they kind of just assumed once you go a few feet under the water, a few like dozen feet under the water, everything was pretty lifeless. Everything was pretty dead. It was just dead quiet. This, that, and the other thing. However, over the past several generations, we've been kind of learning a lot more about marine biology, but we've definitely learned a lot about underwater noises and underwater sounds, probably most notably with like humpback whale songs and stuff. But there's actually a lot of noise and a lot of communication and a lot of just sound and like vibrations and percussion going on under the water. So this book is going to be all about sort of all the different species that kind of use that to either communicate with each other, alert others of danger, try to give warning signs, all that kind of stuff. At first I thought it really was just going to be about fish, but it's going to be fish, underwater mammals, things like crustaceans like shrimp and everything that also make a lot of like loud noises and things. So I feel like I'm going to learn a lot. It's got really good blurbs from Cy Montgomery, Kat Warren, Marek Kalansky, and Carl Savina. So that's a whole bunch of authors that I really enjoy. So I know it's going to be just a really good like book on some just like really good science and everything. So looking forward to that one for sure. So next up we have This Ordinary Stardust, A Scientist's Path from Grief to Wonder. This is by Alan Townsend. Now, from what I understand reading the blurb, this is what really, I kind of was like, oh, Stardust, the whole, everything is made of stardust because of like the nuclear fusion above iron and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, I'll like read the synopsis and everything. And apparently, about a decade ago, Dr. Alan Townsend, who I believe is a scientist, and his wife was a scientist. His wife and his daughter were both diagnosed with like different kinds of brain cancers that I guess were not related or anything. They just both happened by chance to get different kind of brain cancers like at the same time. And it's kind of like a memoir of sort of his feelings and dealing with, the grief of all that. I believe his wife passed away, and I don't quote me on it, but it sounded like from the synopsis that his daughter survived. However, it's all about sort of how he uses his background in science to kind of go from like walking like the steps of grief and everything, and using science as sort of a lens to view the world, but also like a way to like find wonder in the world as well, even though there are like horrible things kind of going on. There's a lot of loss happening, but it's just a way for him. It was just a way for him to kind of process through stuff and kind of I guess continue on with his life. So I don't know, it just sounds like a really deep, heavy biography, memoir type book, and I'm not sure why like I'm drawn to that. But I do feel like this year I've been reading a lot of like maybe not heavier stuff, but been reading a lot of stuff like on like social work and things like that, and just kind of more like difficult topics, and I felt like it just kind of fit with the theme of the stuff I'm reading this year. So I don't know, it just sounds, I find like science memoirs and nature memoirs in particular, though I don't know what kind of scientist he and his wife were, or if he still is a scientist, or like professional scientist, I guess I should say. But I feel like nature memoirs and science memoirs just do a really good job blending the genres together as compared to like some of the other genres and everything. So I am looking forward to it for sure. Next up is a book. I'm not sure if it actually comes out this probably shouldn't be including it on the list, but apparently the audiobook is coming out this month, but the physical copy isn't coming out for a while later, which I don't know if I've ever seen that before. If anything, usually it's the other way around. But anyways, it's a history book on Isabella the Valiant, the story of an indomitable Polish princess by Adam Zamoyski. And the reason I first kind of like looked at it when I saw it was I don't know any Polish like nobility or royalty or anything like that. But Isabella the Valiant just has like that's a really good epithet for a name. And apparently this is the author's like distant ancestor. She lived in like the 1700s, but she was a princess of Poland, obviously from the subtitle. But she ran like in her circle, like she was in contact with like Benjamin Franklin, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Frederick the Great, a couple like other people, and apparently Catherine the Great of Russia just really hated her because of like what she was doing in Poland and stuff. So I don't know, it just sounded like a really cool thing. I just kind of a cool story on like kind of a topic of history I just don't know anything about. I've read a lot on the 1800s this year for whatever reason, but usually, like I said, when we get to Renaissance, I kind of just trail off. So now that I got the 1800s covered for the year, I feel like maybe this will help a little bit with kind of the 18th century and the 1700s. I don't know. It just sounded really cool. And like I said, if you got a name Isabella the Valiant, I feel like I should like read the book, read the book on you. So I don't know. That's why I'm going with that one. But like I said, I don't know if the physical copy actually is coming out to get from the library. It was just kind of weird that it was backwards like that. Next up, we're going to a climate themed book, and it is Free the Land: How We Can Fight Poverty and Climate Change by Audrey Leem. And this one looks like a good sort of intersectional book on a couple different topics, dealing with like socioeconomic stuff, obviously with like poverty and everything, but also there is like a lot of environmental justice books that I've been meaning to get to. It is a topic I need to like kind of brush up quite a bit on. I do read like a lot of nature and environmental books, but when you read kind of the stuff on how like different segments of the population, poor areas, black areas, a lot of different things like that, and how they're sort of zoned and targeted for like, I guess more polluting businesses and factories, things like that. It really is discouraging. It's just something I kind of want to learn more about. However, I think this book, like I said, is about how dealing with land rights, but also social pressures like poverty and everything like that, all kind of have different, or I guess have similar causes, and how we can kind of address a couple things to sort of address the whole system as a whole. I don't know, it just sounded really interesting, like kind of combining the two. I feel like it's going to do a good job just based on like the synopsis and stuff, so hopefully it does pan out for that. And then lastly, here's like the one I sort of cheated with because I only had 4 books. I sort of cheated with. So apparently this book was published like 10 or 12 years ago, something like that. However, it's getting re-released as a paperback or something. So anyways, it's The Sword of Rome, a biography of Marcus Claudius Marcellus by Jeremiah McCall. So for those who don't know, I have a whole Punic Wars shelf over there, and I feel like a biography of The Sword of Rome, which was Marcellus's nickname, just would be a really great addition to my Punic War shelf. So for those who don't know, during the Second Punic War, he was known as the Sword of Rome, and Quintus Fabius Maximus was one known as the Shield of Rome. He's probably a little bit more famous in just, I shouldn't say in the pop culture. I don't know if either of them are like names in pop culture. But Maximus was the one who kind of was like, no, we're just going to harass Hannibal and just kind of follow him around awkwardly, and just not actually give him any battles, but so he can't like do stuff. And he kind of got made fun of and everything a little bit, even though everyone kind of knew that was the policy they needed to take. Marcellus was known as Sword of Rome because he was kind of on the more aggressive side, though he wasn't always fighting Hannibal directly per se. He's probably most known for a couple events in his life. He did during the Second Punic War. He was the one who was able to besiege and take Syracuse, and this was the Syracuse that was being defended by like Archimedes and all his like contraptions and everything like that. And also he is known for obtaining the Spolia Opima, which is a pretty rare honor. Like we got the Ovation and the Triumph. The Roman Triumph is pretty high up there, but the Spolia Opima is actually a little bit higher than the Triumph. I think it was only offered 3 times ever. And one is like Romulus, so you're kind of like, does that even count? But that is when a Roman general actually fights a duel one-on-one with another enemy general. So, and he actually did that against a Gallic chieftain a couple of years before. It kind of been between the two Punic Wars. I think it was 4 or 5 years before the Second Punic War. started up. But yeah, he defeated a like I said, a Gallic chieftain in hand-to-hand combat in like a duel, and that lets you have like the spoiler Pima, which is like when you get like a giant ceremony like at the, I think at the Shrine of Jupiter, and you kind of like offer up the like enemy warlord stuff and everything. But anyways, he's just a really cool figure that a lot of people don't know enough about, and for whatever reason I had never seen this book before. It had, like I said, it had come out several years ago, but I figured I'd count it because I was having a rough time finding some good books for this month for whatever reason. But I think it'll be a really good addition to my first Punic War shelf. So there you have it. So like I said, let me know if you know of any good books coming out this month, because I need help apparently. Maybe I'm just getting rusty with my like book sleuthing skills or something. But whatever you end up reading, whether it's a new release or not, always remember, read victoriously.